Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Yes, very well. Still reeling from that last
Ned Kelly's
story.
gang. I know, how funny was it?
Ned Kelly.
So good.
Yeah, we're doing back-to-back, so I'm going to hazard a guess that we don't have any news.
No news.
No news is good news.
Good news.
So let's, snaps for that. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are
Trial by
Wine.
Wine.
And what are we drinking? You're still on the zero?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything except.
You're still on the soda water, and I'm just on plain old Pepsi now.
You're sobering up after that.
Well, yeah, someone has to.
Yeah.
It's the only person who kept up the deal by getting even moderately intoxicated.
Yes, well done, you. Yeah.
All right. So, Clarky, got a story for us?
I do indeed, yes. Would you like to hear it?
Absolutely.
Love to.
Rightio. I'll start off with my sources. Press Reader, The Age, Wikipedia, ABC, and
Strange story.
random one, NZ Herald.
Oh, okay.
That was a
That's
little
my
bit of a red herring there, Schmitty. I don't know.
I thought we had another local story. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So I came across this story by accident. My good friend that has recommended many stories to me.
My God, she's on a roll. But yeah, go on.
She is my, I was joking with her during the week that she's my research assistant.
Oh,
really,
I laughed because when
just-
I edited the last show that she also recommended, I had to cut her out because I was like, oh, hello. And then you were like, cut that. So I took it out.
Is this the same friend that we did the...
This is the training to be a murderer one, yeah.
Yes, yeah. The apartment or whatever. Car park,
Yeah, so same friend. She's not really my research assistant. She just does all the research. She's delivered the goods a couple of times.
given to me by you, Swanee.
What, Busy Beaver?
Which came out on Sunday, yesterday.
Anyway, she said to me, check out the Baldwin Society murders.
Oh, my God. She is all over it, right?
For those of you who don't know,
I don't know.
Baldwin is a suburb of Melbourne.
Jeez,
that's funny.
You're giving Victoria a very bad. It's not great for tourism. I think it's not good. I don't think Tourism Victoria are going to call us and go, we've got an idea of sponsoring you. Yeah. I don't think Tourism Victoria are contemplating us at the moment. No.
They'll pay us to shut down.
That's all right. Now that we've got could you tell me the name of the website that you used, Schmitty, in the Ned Kelly one? What was it called? The
kellygang.ans.
Yeah, our big banner. Banner sponsor. I think it might be called something. Yeah, that's where the big bucks are.
Yeah.
kellygang.com.au.
So anyway, I started Googling and researching the story, and once I'd put it all together, I just went back to her because she suggested that there was a connection with someone, and I went back to sort of clarify that, and it was then I found out that I'd done the wrong story.
So there are two Baldwin society murders.
No, there are two society murders. One is the Baldwin Society murders, but if you Google that, this story comes up.
Comes up first, all right.
Now, this
back to your point, Swanee, about not giving Victoria a good name.
There's options.
Yes. So this one is the Society murders, not to be confused with the Baldwin Society, which I'll bring to you next time. So, Swanee, sorry, there's going to be 2 weeks of murder from my point of view. So,
can I check one thing? When you're saying Baldwinner, you BALWY,
not Baldwin.
Yeah, okay,
Baldwin.
right, okay.
Yeah.
For all of those of us who are not Victorian, that might, yes, right, doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah. Today we're heading to 2002 Melbourne.
Recent. Not 1880.
No, not 1880. To one of what is probably one of the wealthier but also sleepier suburbs, Armadale.
Oh, my goodness, yep.
We've got one over here in Perth and it's not so crash hot.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not that Armidale.
Posh.
There's always suburbs that get they probably get way too much grief. I can't say I've been there, but it's the go-to suburb to hang shit on kind of thing. I don't even know where it is.
Armidale's the go-to suburb here to get some really nice antiques.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't think that's what's happening in Armidale. But I don't know.
And other high-end shit,
We have a very good friend from your Armidale, Swanee.
So, there you go. Can't say I've been there, but I know it cops a fair bit of shit.
It does.
They're not classist.
It's Perth. It can't be too classist over here, trust me.
For those who don't know Armidale, it's one of the places where the old money lives. Many of the homes are hidden from view behind big trees, big leafy trees, hedges, fences, or security walls, keeping the apparently successful lives and reputations inside free from those outside. So this is the story of Margaret Wales King, who was a wealthy, independent woman who was in the twilight of her very fortunate life. She was born into privilege, the daughter of a road building and construction tycoon. And she'd moved on from the breakdown of her first marriage to the father of her 5 children. And she'd made a fair bit of money herself. So while she was born into privilege, she'd invested a lot and done very well for herself. In 2002, Margaret was 69 and she was married to her second husband, Paul King, who was 75. Now, as a side note, and you'll understand this, I also read that Margaret was 68 and Paul was 70. So who knows how old they were, but, they're thereabouts.
Yeah.
So Margaret had previously been married to Brian Wales, which is where she got her hyphenated surname from, with whom she had the 5 children.
Okay.
When they were together, Brian spent a lot of time away from home as a pilot. A few months after the birth of her youngest, Matthew, Margaret met Paul. They were destined to become lovers.
All those years ago.
All those years ago.
So I don't have pen and paper with me, so because I need to get my facts straight now. So Margaret's first husband, who she had the 5 children with,
5 kids
was
with.
a pilot.
Yes.
Oh, and I misunderstood. I thought she had 5 children to the second husband. Okay, right. So the first one's not
5 to the first.
So the pilot's name is what?
Brian.
But she meets Paul after the birth of the first child. That's when they meet each other. Oh.
After the birth of her youngest.
Oh, sorry. So the last child. Got it. Right. Yeah. Okay, my mistake. That's much clearer, right? Because I was like, oh, okay. So after number 5.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Thank you. As you were.
So Matthew reportedly looked up to Paul. However, the other children had little time for him, considering him weak and subservient to their mother. So poor Matthew, being the youngest, struggled throughout his school years. His IQ barely scraped into the low 80s.
This is like that other story when, not possessed of a big IQ or something, like you made some statement. Right. Not a very smart person. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so poor Matthew wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Mm.
Made it a little bit tough for him, and this continued into his working career. He met and married Maritza Pizarro, who emigrated from Chile with her family. He used his return from the sale of a family inheritance to set Maritza up in her own clothing business. Sorry, of a family inheritance property. So one of the family properties.
Yeah.
Margaret and Paul lived in $1 million home in Armidale in 2002. So that was
sounds like a shed.
$1 million homes were normal. Yeah, that's right. I was
going to say, that sounds like a shed.
It was a cardboard box.
That sounds very impressive. If you say it's nice, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, even then, $1 million. I don't know.
Too much. No, not even then if it was in Armidale from what I can understand. Anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a bit wrong.
Maybe someone Googled and got the Western Australian Armidale and thought.
Quite possible.
They moved in the very best of circles and they played bridge with the elite of society. So I read. To the outsider looking in, everything was rosy with Margaret and Paul. They lived a very enviable life and many aspired to their sort of situation, despite the fact that Paul did have a stroke in 2000. Margaret was a devoted carer of Paul and loving mother and grandmother who doted on her large extended family. However, things aren't always as rosy as they appear, and there were often ongoing arguments within the family about money. These all came to a head.
So much money. Can we have more? Yeah.
Right. It's literally that.
It's sickening.
Gross.
It's sickening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these all came to a head when another property was to be sold. Proceeds from the sale.
I want 70% of that. Anyway, yeah.
I think you're nailing it. You've got the right tone. Yeah.
Enough millions. I need more millions because I don't have Imelda Marcos's shoe collection.
And is it their children that are arguing?
Proceeds from the sale of the property belonged to the family, but Margaret wanted to have the money invested in her trust fund.
So could it be, does Margaret have siblings, or is it Margaret's money and it's her children? Like, do you know what I mean? Are we talking
money that, Margaret's
horizontal parallel.
that is going to the family. So I'm assuming it must be in a family trust or some such.
If it's come from her parents, yeah. Okay, well, in that case, she's a bit naughty, isn't she?
So,
how dare she want her own money? Anyway.
So
well, not necessarily, but I'm just wondering if she's the one who's supposed to be sharing it. That's what I'm not quite clear on.
No.
She's entitled to it. It's her family that want it from her.
I don't think it's hers per se. That's what I could gather.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because of the 5 children, 2 siblings were for her having the money and 2 were against it. So I'm assuming that there was some kind of claim that they had to it, because I don't think you would say we don't have any claim to it and therefore we don't agree that you can do what you should do.
Yeah.
Anyway, she needed the support of little Matthew to get her plan over the line. Matthew's not little at this point, but he's the youngest.
He's the youngest and she wants the majority vote,
Of course, he feels the pressure because 2 are for, 2 are against. Whichever way he goes, he's going to split the family. He eventually agreed to his mother's plan, but resented her for putting him in a position in which he would forever be needing to ask Mum for more money. So he wasn't going to get some of his, but he's given it to her so she could invest it. I'm assuming
hang on a
because
he's been set up, they sold a property, Maritza started a business. Hey, they're not short for cash.
Don't have enough millions. That's what I was saying. You are all over it. Yes. So he resented her because he was in a position where he would forever need to ask for money, even though, to your point, he'd been set up with a inheritance already.
Ridiculous. Mm-hmm.
He felt that he would never manage to establish the financial independence of his siblings. I think that's also accurate, regardless of the decision that happened in this scraping into the 80s. This all gnawed away at him, and he began to formulate a plan because he is an evil genius with an IQ of
he's a bit thick,
just low 80s. If his mother died, he would have a substantial inheritance. I would have many millions. So he invited Margaret and Paul to his home in Glen Iris for dinner on the 4th of April 2002.
Did he make a beef Wellington?
He did not, with no mushrooms. No mushrooms died in the making of this story.
Weapon of choice in Victoria.
Well, they might have, because he did make vegetable soup. They arrived just before 7 p.m. and Margaret parked her silver Mercedes in the driveway and they headed inside.
Like someone on the panel has a silver Mercedes and is taking offence to your tone.
Well, you should pay attention to this story, Swanee.
I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Matthew had cooked vegetable soup for the family and they all sat down to enjoy the meal. Unbeknownst to his parents, Matthew had stolen some blood pressure tablets from his mother-in-law and placed a strong dose in their food, along with some crushed paracetamol. As a result...
What are you thinking, Matthew? Dear God.
As a result...
Are they like beta blockers? Because they slow your heart down, don't they?
I don't know.
You can kill people with that.
They give you a low
blood pressure or something.
That wasn't what he was trying to do.
Oh, okay.
He was just trying to make them a little bit drowsy so that after dinner they'd be a little bit docile. Also, I did read that he later stated that he did not want his mother to feel any pain. I'm not sure if that's why he crushed the paracetamol in, but given what he's about to do, I don't think a little bit of paracetamol is going to help.
Oh, God.
So,
Matthew!
As they're leaving...
Yeah, idiot.
Matthew, I don't like where this is headed.
As they're leaving, drugged and unsteady, making their way to the car, Matthew takes out a length of pine timber that he'd previously hidden in a hedge and whacks him repeatedly in the head.
What a banana paracetamol. Mum and stepdad,
Paracetamol's
nice.
not going to help that.
No.
Matthew?
Not before
Where's his
nor
wife?
after.
What's her name with the weird?
Maritza.
Very,
Maritza
very good
Pizarro,
question.
whatever her name
Where's
is.
the
Yeah.
wife?
I'll tell you later, but I'll also tell you now.
Okay.
She says she's upstairs putting their son to bed.
And did she have the he only was able
Says,
to. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So after he's clubbed them both, he drags their bodies, clubs them to death, I should say.
Yes.
He drags their bodies into a position inside the property's front wall and covered them before.
Okay. It's like the wall that's out to the
Fence.
Yeah.
Fence,
So that hides the prying
wall.
eyes.
Yes.
Yeah. From the pleasures of what goes on the inside, like clubbing your parents to death. He then jumps into the Mercedes, the silver Mercedes, Swanee, and drives off, returning sometime later without it. He then drags the bodies into the garage where he wraps them in doona covers. For 2 days, he kept the bodies in the garage. Like,
What month is this?
April.
It's not too hot. Okay.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
It's not like it's today. It's not like it's
going on at the moment. But
it's autumn. It won't be too bad. Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of Matthew.
No.
I'm not a fan of Matthew at all.
Yeah.
He's really upset me. I'm very disappointed in Matthew.
Imagine his mum.
I know. I'm quite annoyed. Trust me.
For 2 days, he kept the bodies in the garage, but he knew he needed a more permanent solution.
Good one.
Duh. He drove to a local service station in his patrol and hired a trailer, then visited a hardware shop to buy rope and other items. Placing the bodies in the trailer and covering them, he drove out to an isolated road near Marysville on the outskirts of Melbourne.
The Kelly gang might have been there, yeah.
There's a high chance.
Mm-hmm.
They've been everywhere, man.
May have been there. May have had... maybe there were some remains there.
Might have taken a shit there.
Who knows? Might have been some cattle balls in a parcel.
No doubt.
He dug a hole and he buried them. Matthew's sister reported her parents missing on the 8th of April, and on the 10th of April, their vehicle was found in Middle Park in inner Melbourne.
Oh.
Where's that?
Just sort of Bayside, south of the city, between the city and the bay. So it's,
okay.
Yeah, it's
near Franger.
No, literally Port Melbourne, Melbourne, Middle Park, kind of Albert Park area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it. Yep.
Police were all over it. They figured they had a murder on their hands, and they began questioning the friends and the family.
Well, Maritza can say we had him over for dinner the other night. They were here a couple of nights ago.
Well, I promise you, Matthew didn't say that.
No, but Maritza didn't kill them, so maybe she can say, you know what, we had them for dinner the other night, didn't we, Darl?
You could have been one of these investigators, Swan. So they were initially surprised at Matthew's erratic behaviour, and the family noticed this too.
Had he said to his siblings, or had the siblings contacted him, do we know this, and said, have you seen Mum or Dad, Mum and Paul or whatever? And I'll let you go on because I think I'd be intrigued to know.
I think I'm about to answer your question.
Oh, okay.
They were especially surprised when they found out that the parents had been to Matthew's house the night before they disappeared. Something he'd forgotten to mention previously.
Oh.
So Matthew rocketed to prime suspect status. And then on the 29th of April, 2 park rangers discovered a shallow grave in bushland near Marysville. The bodies were bound and wrapped in plastic.
How ignominious.
Still wearing the clothes they wore to dinner. Can you, who's done all of this stuff for you?
Yeah, I know. I just don't get it.
Set you up so magnificently.
It wasn't like she was unless you're going to reveal that she was terrible and abusive or whatever else. I don't think that's where we're headed. Seeing as
she's devoted to the family.
Yeah, she's been invited over for dinner.
And in reality, she'd die at some point. They would have got the money at some point. And she was in her old age. Oh, God.
Maybe Maurizio's fashion empire wasn't quite doing as well as it.
Autopsies on the bodies revealed they had been strangled and beaten.
Oh, gross.
No, you're right. Paracetamol's not going to help that.
It's interesting, though. So the strangled bit, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but he's obviously not consistent with Matthew's story. So they don't know what's gone on there. The funeral was held on the 8th of May, and Matthew had participated at the couple's funeral. However, he was seated away from 4 older siblings.
Oh.
At one point, he was photographed weeping and embracing his elder brother, which I guess you would expect at a funeral. By this time, the story was well and truly in the media, with Melburnians fascinated by the murder of 2 wealthy and very normal people. They were all wondering how this could happen and why, and if it could happen to them. It also made international headlines. So on the 11th of May 2002, the New Zealand Herald featured the story.
Yep.
International.
The article included the following extract. Conversations everywhere are wondering aloud why anyone would wreak such a violent, gruesome, undignified end to the lives of an innocent old couple.
Sorry.
And just what kind of a person could do such a terrible thing?
Is that multiple sentences? Because that's a very long sentence.
It's definitely multiple sentences.
And conversations everywhere are wondering. Do conversations wonder?
So,
it's very bad. It's bad. I'm sorry. It threw me because it's bad. And then he said odd couple, and I'm like, I can't focus on this at all. Anyway.
So it goes on, right? The speculative scene in one Toorak cafe, the speculative scene, I think they're making
Here we go again.
Now,
yep.
Yeah.
Conversations are wondering.
Repeated,
the speculative scene is now some
scene in one Toorak cafe. Mm-hmm. So the made-up story in one Toorak cafe is repeated all over Melbourne.
Is it? No.
Is it though?
No. Is it? No.
And here's the speculative scene. It can't have been a robbery, or else they would have taken the jewellery she was wearing, says one smartly dressed young woman as she waits for her skinny latte.
This is top reporting.
The barista... come on, New Zealand. The barista serving her pauses momentarily.
Imagine this could have happened. Yeah, go on.
Speculative scene in one Toorak cafe repeated all over Melbourne. The barista serving her pauses momentarily for thought. Yeah, I suppose so. But what if they were going back? What if they were going to go back to get the jewellery later? So there's a lot of carry on going on, and it even gets across the ditch. But it does highlight, I guess, some of the thoughts that were going on at the time. Police weren't having a bar of it; they were doing their job and getting on with their investigation.
Family member, someone close to them.
They checked back on credit card purchases and found transactions at a hardware store and a service station.
What an idiot. Oh, my God. I know his IQ's only 80, but come on, mate.
Don't victim blame or shame or
I'm perp blaming, yeah.
They then viewed CCTV footage and the picture became clear. It all looked damning, but the detectives still had to be certain that they had every thread connected. Yep. So Swanee... enter Detective Swanee, they went to see Maritza.
Oh, Maritza.
Yeah.
That's what she would have done the first time round. What's that Maritza doing? Where's Maritza? Swanee immediately. Tell me about Maritza.
Can someone get Maritza in here, please?
Yeah. She said it wasn't me. She did the shaggy on the bathroom floor. It wasn't me.
Kelly, I wasn't even there.
But she did say that she'd been upstairs changing the couple's son and preparing him for bed. She said that she knew nothing of the murders until she saw the bodies in the driveway.
What's her IQ?
That'll do it. Oh.
I don't know, but...
Water finds its own level.
Have you seen what's on the front lawn?
Oh, my Lord.
She's not trying too hard to protect poor Matthew, that's for sure.
She's done her due diligence and she knows all the money will come to her anyway.
Interestingly, the family's always suspected Maritza of having some more involvement in the murders than just changing their son. On the 11th of May, so same day, they get Matthew in and he confesses to police and was charged with the murders. He told police, Schmitty, of the great animosity and hurt between himself and his mother, and that the anger had been building for years. I mean, imagine how tough it must be. He mentioned that he buried his mother beneath his stepfather in order to diminish her domineering character. He also told police that he killed, that's what he said.
It's extraordinary for such a thicko to be even thinking like that, but yeah, go on.
Scraping into the 80s. He also told police that he killed Paul because he blamed him for his parents' separation. Maritza was charged with being an accessory after the fact to both the alleged murders.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything, but I saw them in the driveway and I didn't call the police.
So at this point, Matthew's not saying, oh, actually, there's some money at stake. I was just wanting the money. He hasn't revealed that little kind of...
It's not about that. Mum's made me very upset.
It's just mum's made me upset. Yeah. And Paul isn't my real dad.
Yeah.
You're not my father. You can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, exactly that, in that tone too. At the trial, Justice John Coldry found that Matthew, partly due to his low IQ, murdered the couple not out of greed, but because he resented his mother for using her wealth to manipulate him.
Maybe.
Justice Coldry said that Matthew showed no remorse for the killings and that he had told his psychiatrist that his actions were morally justified.
Ooh.
The psychologist's report said Matthew believed his mother had dominated him emotionally, physically, and financially all of his life, and that the killings of her and Paul represented the ultimate expression of his independence.
Oh.
Matthew asserted that not only had his mother used the power of her money against him, but also against his sisters.
What did the sisters have to say to that? We're good, thanks.
As long as it doesn't affect how much money we get out of the will. We'll say whatever you like.
Yeah, we're good, yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So he said that, so apparently one of his sisters had spoke to him before his arrest, and she had the impression that her brother thought he'd done the family a favour by killing their mother. Justice Coldry was all over it in sentencing Matthew and said it appeared to Justice Coldry that Matthew thought of himself as a hero and having done the family a favour in killing Margaret and Paul, and that nobody else in the family had the guts to do this. He also said that it was certainly not the view of his siblings, who had suffered added distress at Matthew's suggestion that the then missing couple had been the victims of a carjacking or an attack by a drug dealer. Poor Matthew's making up stories about where his parents might be when he knows exactly where they were. And the family did not accept Matthew's view of his mother as manipulating.
Poor Margaret.
Yeah. They said their upbringing was a privileged one involving access to several farms, a beach house, a unit at the Snow, and the benefit of a number of overseas trips. Justice Coldry stated that all the children, including Matthew, benefited from the mother's assistance in obtaining a primary residential property. So this is how badly they've been treated.
Yeah.
On April 11th, 2003, Matthew Wales was sentenced to 30 years in jail for the murders of Margaret and Paul, without the chance of parole until 2027. While being sentenced, Matthew appeared calm but showed great concern for his wife, who was crying. And the judge said he also wanted to make it quite clear that there was no evidence linking Maritza to the murders. But in a prepared statement, the family said the court had not uncovered the full facts of the case and method of death. To us, his account was self-serving and based on selfish opportunity and selfish greed. We believe we have a right to the full facts. So there were a lot of issues that they said didn't make sense to them and they wanted an inquiry. The Homicide Squad detective, Inspector Andrew Allen, defended the investigation, saying it was methodical and thorough. As far as the Homicide Squad is concerned, the investigation is closed and it has come to its conclusion.
But also, didn't he say, yeah, I did it?
Yeah, but there's the bit, I think, about the strangulation, right, where they're going, what's gone on there? And the suspicion around whether Maritza was or wasn't more involved. So I think there's a lot of angst, and they probably weren't that tight-knit a family. I don't really know, but I'm kind of wondering.
It could well have been manipulation over finances, right? So a friend of mine has
perceived manipulation.
We don't know, right? So it's all about your experience, and he's a bit thick, and his mum may have tried to manipulate him, possibly because he's a bit thick, to say, go down this path, you'll get this money, I'll look after you, kind of thing. We have no idea. But I know people who've come from wealthy backgrounds whose parents have absolutely weaponized the money. Do as I say.
But he got a house.
Yeah, and their siblings have, in the example I'm thinking of, the siblings have received benefits by doing what mum says, but the individual in question is like, I'm not interested, and I'm not going to be manipulated by you by using money as a weapon.
But they all got a house.
Yeah, and as would my friend.
How much more money do you want that you're going to get manipulated over?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I just it's poor little rich kid. You've got a house, for God's sakes.
Yeah, but it's also like you've never known anything else.
No one should have to go through that trauma.
Yeah, but you've never known anything else either, right? So you've grown up privileged, but do you even realise you're privileged? Because everyone around you is probably privileged as well. So do you even recognise that you're a poor little rich kid, or you're just a kid dealing with whatever your family relationships are? Because that's your normal.
I think if all the other siblings are saying
I'm a
they're
bit
privileged,
jealous and shitty about it, but that's because I did not grow up like that. But all the other siblings are also got, I'm assuming, a higher IQ.
yeah, but so are you saying that he did it because he's stupid or because he was manipulated?
I think he was manipulated, but due to defamation laws, I'm not going to suggest by whom.
The judge didn't agree with that, and neither did the family. But anyway.
Oh, no, I think the family might agree with me, but I'm not actually stipulating who I think is manipulating him. Anyway.
So I couldn't find, to the point, a whole lot of detail around the suspicions other than the strangulation and Maritza's involvement.
You got a trailer, and did you say got ropes as well? There's no way that I'm assuming strangulation by ligature marks or something, or do we know what form?
It just said evidence of strangulation.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got to assume that forensically they're not suggesting it's posthumous ligature marks from tying them up.
You would think so, yeah, but they're not saying that. Maritza was found guilty of perverting the course of justice and received a 2-year suspended sentence.
Well, she's got to raise their baby.
Well, this is the thing, right? The thing I think I'm not very clear on, because I just don't actually know. When we refer to how low his IQ is, it's not that he hasn't gone on to have a marriage, a child. Yes, his mum we know she paid for the house and she set up, or she helped pay for the business venture that the wife has. But it's not like he's not leading a life. It's not like he's in a
full life.
Home or he's living a life as an adult. It might not be as sharp as, his siblings or everybody else, but it's not like he's, do you know what I mean? I think he just wanted the money, and that was just the quickest way to it, is the fact that, mum, and you're asking me to do this, whatever else, it's all getting too hard. It's all too hard. I just think we'll cut to the chase, and if they're gone, then we don't have to do this for the next however many years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he
die. Some might say you may as well die now.
Yeah, he would have got the money.
Yeah,
he just wouldn't have got it now.
He wouldn't have got as much because she might have spent some before she died.
Well, he probably didn't get any.
Well, for killing her, no, I would assume. Yeah.
No. How awful to have your sibling kill your parents. That's pretty.
Horrendous. In 2007, Maritza was given a 6-week suspended jail sentence for stealing a ring from a Kew swimming pool.
What year was that, sorry?
It's 2007.
5 years later.
She pleaded guilty to stealing the $8,000 diamond ring,
Jesus,
which she sold within an hour to cash converters to pay off a $400 loan.
Classy. So she's not got any of the money either then, or she's used it all up?
No.
Yeah, she must have had part of the house or something, or her business. In court, her lawyer said Maritza was, before I go into what in court said, she might have been a fan of the quick money. Maybe. In court, her lawyer said Maritza was making tentative steps to move on with her life after the 2002 murders. The magistrate said she could not completely discount Maritza's history of dishonesty and sentenced her to 6 weeks in jail, wholly suspended for a year. Lastly, the murders of Margaret and Paul made it into book and film. In 2003, Melbourne barrister Hilary Bonney wrote a book about the murder, The Society Murders, the true story of the Wales King murders.
Not to be confused with the Baldwin Society murders. Yeah.
Correct, which we'll cover later.
It's another book.
The book was written without cooperation from the family and was based largely on court evidence and police documents. Do you reckon? I'm not sure that's great. The book was later adapted as a 2006 television film, The Society Murders, for Network 10, written by Greg Hadrick and Kylie Needham for the production company Screen Time, and it starred Georgie Parker and Alex Dimitriadis.
Oh, I hope Alex Dimitriadis wasn't Matthew.
Was that
He
flattering?
wasn't. He
Gosh.
was the detective.
Oh, thank goodness. That would have destroyed it for me. I was like, I don't want to watch Alex Dimitriadis do that. Thanks. I'm happy with, my old Heartbreak High memories and whatever else. That would just destroy it for me.
So that's the horrible story of
It is.
Margaret Wales King and Paul King, and the society murders.
Oh, that feels like for them as a
Sad,
family,
isn't
it
it?
feels like it came out of the blue. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that they had
100%.
murder on their horizon. They thought that that's where things would go.
It's really sad.
Families have their issues, of course. It's awful.
Mm.
And
It's
the
so
thing is,
bad.
imagine living with the fact that your mum and dad, or mum and stepfather, that's how they had been killed. That's not a very nice way to go, I don't think.
It's awful.
Being whacked in the head with wood, strangled, and then buried. Yeah, I'm not convinced that would, I'd sleep well after knowing that happened to mum. Awful.
I found it really hard because it seemed like from her perspective, sure, she was motivated by money and had obviously got a lot of it. Some of it she'd inherited, some of it she'd made herself, but she was sharing it with the kids. Like, it wasn't like, you hear about Gina Reinhardt in court with her children because the kids want more and she doesn't want to give it to them and all of that. This woman had given homes to the children.
I suspect that what she would want to do, what she would want to do, and this is something that I've been made aware of, something is this whole idea of, again, it comes to sort of succession planning where it wasn't her who originally made the money, right? It was her father. Is that what she said?
But she did do some good investing.
Yeah, correct. So she's no fool, but she understands that, and if their house was worth $1 million, which really isn't a great deal, it might be that they're actually quite sensible. Yeah, they're probably wealthy, but they're probably quite careful, and that's why they continue to have the money.
And
they had all these things. They had a privileged life. But do you know how they're quite shrewd with money?
They respected it. Yes. They weren't blowing cash.
Yeah, I bet you they weren't, out doing fancy things all the time. I suspect it was like, okay, my parents gave me this sort of start, and then that's come down to my generation. I've done my own thing with it, and I want to be able to make sure that when I'm gone, my kids are also going to benefit from that. That's quite a common thing I've heard of. So if that's the way she's doing it, and then someone's over here going, yeah, but I want more and I want it all now, that's when things really don't work. So if, he's just got too greedy too quickly and it's like, I need it now.
I think
did he even ask for more money? Or did he just kill her?
Oh, well, I imagine that was part of the manipulation that he perceived, right?
Yeah, he probably asked and they said no. That's probably the manipulation.
Well, I think she would probably be someone who, and I'm making it up, but I assume she would be going, I've given you a house to get you set up. I'm not going to give you more money, particularly if you're not going to spend it well. And
I've set your wife up in her business. We're good for now, okay? Yeah. Go and make it for yourself. You'll feel so much better if you do. Go off and do that.
But also, at some point or other, I'll die and you'll have a certain amount of money, but if you don't know how to manage it, you'll run out of it.
Yeah. And it will be shared with your siblings and that's how it's going to work. And it'll be I'm sure it was all very structured. And, because it wasn't something that had just come into their family. Do you know what I mean? They hadn't just made a mozza.
No, that's right.
And, it's that thing, that lineage where it's like it comes through and you try and look after it and then everyone gets a little bit. And so they've, as you say, they had a house each. So that kind of thing, that's what people do, I think, who, or they might not pay for the whole house, but they're giving their kids money towards a home or the mortgage or whatever it is, the deposit. I think that's quite, well, not common, but,
But I found it really hard that she's been that generous. She's got all of them, but him included, set up, and he feels so bad about it that he kills
It's ridiculous.
her. Like,
because
it's nonsense.
Especially if she's been successful in her own right, she's thinking these kids have got to do it for themselves. Yes, it's all here. Yes, they'll get it. But, if they do it on their own terms and just, that's kind of like that sort of safety net. It's here, but go do your own thing. I'm not going to just hand it to you because I'm sure everyone would be super critical of her if she did. If she just gave it all to him, like, oh my God, that's not helping anybody.
That's right.
So it feels like she was damned if she did and damned if she didn't, only by Matthew, of course. But I think it sounded like her course of action was sensible.
Well, it's very generous and loving.
Yeah,
like
I think so. So awful. Those poor siblings, God.
The notion of resenting someone so much for that, it's hard to get your head around, I think. And I can only imagine the horror that she would have felt when she realised what was going on. Like,
he's hoping that they didn't have those final moments of the betrayal and the horror of it. It's just horrendous.
That's not the story that my friend recommended.
Did you get in touch with her and say, oh, I've gone and done the research. What's the connection,
So she sent me a bit. I said, so did you say about this that it was
connection,
blah, 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 which I'll tell you next week.
Yeah.
And she said the best part of it is what happened afterwards. I'm like, what? what happened afterwards? And then she went on, I'm like, I don't think I've got the right story. Yeah, I can't find anything about that.
Any thoughts on sentencing?
I think I'm quite happy.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe not happy. Comfortable is probably a better word.
I don't think you can sentence him enough because I just think it's so unjustified from what I can gather. Schmitty, I think, to your point around litigation, there's probably some other influence going on there that we haven't discussed a lot.
I'll just sentence him to some kind of, upbringing in abject poverty. Learn how to work on your own, mate. When you've got no one giving it all to you, when you don't even have to be that poor. You could just come from a working class background where the expectation is that you work for it because there's not a ton of money coming from parents. It's just enough to get by and have a roof over your head and pull your head in and do the work and shut up.
What about sentencing to an upbringing that really was traumatic? Like, what's her name from Monster?
Charlize Theron.
Leanne Warnos, yeah.
Yeah, Leanne Warner. We hear so many people who actually have a very traumatic.
Yeah, but then they turn into murderers, right? And he's already
who are creative.
He didn't even have that and turned into a murderer. So I think just popping maybe what's that film Lion? We'll just drop him at a train station in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, India,
so sad,
and it was tragic.
Yeah.
I cried and cried, but let's just drop him as a kid in the middle of nowhere, and he has to just find his way, and he doesn't end up with Nicole Kidman adopting him. He just has to find his way.
Or Angelina Jolie.
Not
in the story, but she doesn't mind adopting people.
White ladies who will elevate his status because the whole point of it is to put him in a situation which is hard and he's got to work for everything he gets. All right.
There you go.
Well, never heard of that one. I think I went to the UK in 2001, so that's just slightly after it. So I was not part of the cafe where they had the conversations of a blah, blah nature.
I do think
bullshit.
We could definitely sentence the New Zealand Herald
I think shocking article.
For the speculative scene in Mundurat Cafe is repeated all over Melbourne.
The speculative scene? What? I beg your pardon? No, didn't even hear of it. But what was the other? Conversations? It was...
Conversations everywhere are wandering aloud.
I'm sorry, conversations don't wander aloud. Like, it's just bad. Conversations aren't sentient beings. Oh, God.
I wonder.
Yeah. New Zealand Herald. I'm going to sentence you to a course in grammar.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, that was an interesting story. Thanks, Clarky.
Yeah.
And as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.